temporal convolution neural networks for radar micro-Doppler based Gait recognition. Good morning everybody and welcome back to Don't Believe Everything You See on the Internet. Now, I don't know if it's just my For You page on TikTok, but just everywhere I have been bombarded with the fact that apparently there are some structures under the pyramids. No, there are not.
Either going to be the biggest discovery of the century or it's going to be complete nonsense. But apparently the pyramid at Khafre at Giza has been scanned by radar and that they allegedly detected massive structures that were stirring far below the pyramid. Allegedly, researchers said that they announced the discovery of a normal vertical cylindrical structures that were approximately 648 meters beneath the Giza plateau.
Like, this has gotten so bad. There is Daily Mail is posting about this. The Economic Times is posting about this. And everyone's favorite smart man, Joe Rogan, is posting about this. Now, I don't hate Joe Rogan. I think some of the stuff he says is funny. And I just think that he's an average guy talking to smart people sometimes. Pretty entertaining podcast. But what I don't like about Joe Rogan is the fact that he has this like huge tinfoil hat on. And under this tinfoil hat he has his headphones on, which are probably like booming conspiracy theories straight into his brain. Because there's no way he can think this, right? If you're surrounded by so many smart people on a daily, they have to have rubbed off on you. Pause. But let's see what Joe Rogan says about this groundbreaking or ground exploring discovery, and then we're actually going to read the paper to understand it, because we're so scientific here.
So apparently, through the use of LiDAR, they have discovered that there are enormous structures underneath the Great Pyramid that go kilometers deep into the earth with coils. So enormous pillars and then these coils. And
do you think if someone asked Joe Rogan right now, hey, what is LiDAR, he would be able to respond? Because I doubt it. I don't know, maybe I'm just, not up to date with the super new technologies, but LiDAR is using light to map out things. LiDAR is a remote sensing method to examine the surface of the Earth. It's just like projection mapping the light and its reflections. So you can see like a crevice if it's deep or not, but you can't see what's like beneath the surface. Or like when the first word of the actual research paper is just kind of wrong, does not put you off? It doesn't put Joe Rogan off, it turns him on.
So enormous pillars and then these coils. They don't understand what it is because they're just looking at LiDAR images, but what
they don't understand what it is because they're using the tool inappropriately? Not correctly. They're not using the tool as it's designated, so they're probably getting hella glitches on the feed and are like, oh my god, we found something incredible. No. Here's an example. If I have a telescope and I'm looking at the moon and I see a second moon next to it, first I will check if there's a smudge on my telescope. And if there is, then I know I was kind of bugging. You know that I'm thugging. But you get it. Make sure you're using the tools correctly.
Whatever this is a uniform structure.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry for pausing. I'm sorry. I just get so emotional. I'm a very emotional person, actually.
Pillars and all of this is like very, very, very weird.
Yeah, it's 600 meters descending down those cylinders, and then there's more stuff below it, and then there's additional structures inside of it.
This is like when you're gaslighting somebody and your bro comes in with more details. Yeah, and I actually heard there are aliens walking down on those spirals. They're going up and down. It's like there are elevators down there as well, So like the ancient Egyptians didn't want to like walk down these stairs, so they built elevators. Actually, fuck the elevators. They built teleportation. You just zoom, and you just appear in the pyramids. Mad drippy glasses, though. I will give you that.
Crazy.
It's really crazy. There's a guy, Jay Anderson, and he did a breakdown of it. Maybe this would be good. We could play this. It makes a little more sense when someone's explaining it to you.
Oh, yeah, I mean, we need somebody that's an expert here, not me and you.
Zawi Hawass, by the way, has said it's nonsense. So I don't know.
Already?
Okay. Alright, good shit, Joe Rogan. You know what? I take back the criticism. If you put both alternating takes, like one is for, one is against, that's coolio.
According to Graham Hancock. This is the wonderful thing about having Graham
I texted
Hancock's
Graham yesterday. I was like, "Yo, what's going on with this?"
Yeah, so click on that and go full screen, please.
Wait, what? Wait.
Click on that and go full screen, please.
Jay Anderson, open source intelligence researcher. So you can Google stuff. OSINT is just Googling stuff and Google dorking, kinda.
Dun dun dun. I love the music. And geometry, so you know it's real.
You got to appreciate the dramatic intro.
Project
the
Unity.
Tesseract. Oh my god, oh my god, this is so fucking meta. How many cameras are on screen right now? Oh, I hate this.
Just been announced in relation to the pyramids at the Giza plateau, and the plateau itself is so incredible, so awe-inspiring and narrative shattering that I have been sitting here for the last hour trying to wrap my head around the implications of what we were just told. So this is pretty much breaking news because the new findings were announced on the 16th of March at a press conference held by the team who were studying the Great Pyramid of Giza with a non-invasive technology that was first developed by Filippo Bionde and Corrado Malanga called synthetic aperture radar Doppler tomography.
Fuck, that's a mouthful.
Synthetic, fake, aperture, like measurement or scale, radar, Doppler, like the Doppler sound, tomography. What the fuck is tomography? ChatGPT, come to my rescue. Synthetic aperture radar combines several advanced imaging techniques to create high-resolution reconstructions of objects or terrain. Can you use this to see underground? ChatGPT is baffled. Can be used to some extent for underground imaging with limitations. Okay. Tens of meters. So my immediate thought is, what if it's a giant rock underneath? Because that wouldn't be so unlikely, right? But how do we know it's being coiled? How do we know it's a structure? How do you know it's a perfect cylinder? How do you know there's multiple of them? There's so many what ifs. Like, I wouldn't doubt it if they said, yo, there's a big rock underneath, you know? Might be something cool. My biggest question is, why would there be stuff there? I'm not saying that there isn't, I'm saying why would there be? What's the reason? Because you'd either have to make a giant hole and then put stuff in there and then cover the hole and put a pyramid on top, or you'd have to explain some huge terrain shift that there suddenly is a mountain full of sand on a huge structure that wasn't there before. So like, usually when stuff doesn't make sense, it isn't the case.
Called synthetic aperture radar Doppler tomography.
Fuck, that's a
This
mouthful.
was used to explore the internal
Chiropractor
structure
talk.
of the Great Pyramid of Giza. And this method leverages the analysis of micro movements typically generated by background seismic activity to achieve a high resolution full 3D tomographic imagery of the pyramid's interior and subsurface components. The recent findings from deploying this technology are nothing short of mind-blowing, because what's been discovered is that there are huge structures coming down from the base of the pyramid deep into the
Okay,
bedrock.
I like that. I think also
In fact,
the
over
Joe Rogan is
600
also kind of poking
meters
fun at
deep,
this.
which then connects to structures that extend up to 2 kilometers below the surface of the ground. 2 kilometers. Massive internal structures connected to the base.
Okay. Okay. So I'm not an expert at this, but can we already see some potential flaws? Like, if you're using seismic activity and presumably like different resonances of different materials to like see how much shit shakes and then map it out, how would you know it's a cylinder? How would you know of the form? How would you know of the spirals? How would you know any of this? This makes, maybe because I'm not a OSINT specialist, I don't know how that's relevant in this case, but maybe because I'm not halfway delusional, this doesn't make sense to me yet. I would need to see some incredible proof. And thankfully, I can read the proof right here. So the earliest article I could find is this. I think the original one, and it's from 2022. So I don't know why it's blowing up now. Maybe because Joe Rogan talked about it. Aren't you supposed to, like, when you're making a scientific paper, aren't you supposed to write out, like, all the things that possibly could go wrong? Where is that written? And as far as I can see, this shit wasn't peer-reviewed, so I'll be your peer and I'll review it. Let's read the methodology. The Pyramid of Giza is not known as the Kufokun. I have never heard that name before. Maybe that's just me who's uninformed, but let me check. That's not the name that was used in any other scientific text. Okay, well, continuing. Okay, so the dude's entire reason to believe this even is a thing is because it's written in the myths. Okay. The argument that myths are insignificant, blah 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 blah, has been challenged. Just like your mental friend. No offense. A bit of offense. Satellite remote sensing is widely used in the field of archaeology. Not to look underground. Yes, they were used in the Inca region because there was hella forest there. So it was easier to look from above from weird patterns in forest to see maybe there was some structure underneath. That's the forest is covering. I'm pretty sure. Don't quote me on this. I'm not an expert. But this has so much scientific jargon. In my opinion, the best research papers are the ones who use the very, very least amount of buzzwords. And they're trying to be as easy to understand as possible. But here, it's just buzzword, 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 buzzword. Ambidextrous. SAR tomography. Doppler effect. The fuck? Alright. Methodology. In this work, technique is used to perform sonic imaging processing. Okay, wait, hold on. Why is there no clarification of what the technique is here? You should say, I'm guessing it's those micro movements or whatever, but why is this not written down here? Okay. The estimation is completed through MCA. What? What is that? MCA and is completed through MCA and performed in the Doppler direction. Okay, I'm not smart enough to understand this, but the differences in the micro movement because of the Doppler effect. The Doppler effect is the thing that happens if you have an ambulance, for example. This is the most normal example of this. If you have an ambulance and it goes towards you, the closer it gets to you, you're gonna hear the sound waves stack upon it, and therefore they're gonna go higher in pitch and more frequent. And then when it goes past you and drives away, you're gonna feel it slower sound effects. No, not slower sound effects, but lower pitch and slower frequency of sound. I am not a scientist. Have you noticed? Yapping. Very complex math, complex physics, which I won't even try and understand. Is this... Hold on now. Is this even rotten? Hold on now. Was this even written by a accomplished physicist? Let's check. Space geodetic monitoring of engineered structures. Oh my god, are all of his papers just incredible buzzwords? Adaptive radar detection in the presence of multiple alternative... What? Selective monodisc... Okay, that's just chemistry. But please, you can know... Why are all of your papers cardiovascular outcomes on the... Okay, this guy... Okay, fuck this. This guy's stupid. Because no researcher is just that smart. There's no expert. When you're an expert on have you noticed, if you read the research papers, basically any expert has the same paper 50 times. Because that's their area of expertise. Right? So you're not a neurosurgeon, and you suddenly have a fucking thesis in complex radiology. Or you're a neurosurgeon and you suddenly have a thesis in structural engineering of bridges. That's not how it works. And this dude is apparently just a polyglot in terms of science because he's talking about everything. Temporal convolution neural networks for radar micro-Doppler based Gait recognition. The effect of this hormone, I don't even know what... This dude is... Okay, I'm sorry, but this dude is just unwell in the head and just yaps out of his ass. Or I said. No, but okay. Don't believe everything you see on the internet. And don't believe me. Make your own research. Or wait till this gets, like, confirmed or denied, I guess. Even though it probably will get denied. Yeah. Either way, love you. Sleep well. Have a good day. Slopathon day 5 coming soon. Alright, so I have opened, just for my own interest, I have opened more of his research papers. And this dude is like talking about so many things that it's impossible to be an expert in all of his areas. Like economic impacts, using neural networks and radar frequency signatures, so much bullshit. The capability of sensors to identify individuals in a specific scenario is a topic of high relevance, blah 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 blah. This paper proposes an approach based on a temporal convolutional deep neural network classifier applied to radar micro-Doppler signatures in order to identify individuals. Okay, how does he propose to do that? The micro-Doppler effect is induced by the mechanical vibrating or rotating structures in a target and is a very useful feature for target detection. Sure, if the target is constantly vibrating at it has a constant frequency, maybe. But if you have a bunch of people walking, right? All the vibrations will be mixed up, and even if you're able to separate between all of them, it would crave incredible processing power. Alright, so I actually read through all of this, and let me propose to you, as a peer, not your equal, but as just a random looker-by, why this wouldn't work. First of all, where would you get the database of each individual human and how their frequency changes? Even if you were able to somewhat accurately see their individual micro-Doppler frequencies, like and how their swing, how their arms swing, like how their legs move. Slight deviances in those patterns would completely invalidate any result. For example, if you're slightly more tired on one day, now how do we know that you're a completely different person? The database would have to be incredibly huge to account for all of these possible deviances and patterns. This would be way harder to process than just Face ID, you know, because you'd have to have a incredibly huge library of patterns. And then you have to check through all of them and assign them to a person to see if it's a different or the same person. And accuracy, maybe on one day today, it will be slight, but let's say someone stubs their toe while walking. And how are you going to get baseline measurements? Because with every neural network, you have to assign, there is a learning period, right? Where you have to assign the weights to make sure that it works correctly. How would you get those? Because you can't just go around and get testing info in the field, because then there are too many variables. There's no constant you can look for. You don't know if it's correct. Maybe there's some background frequency of someone else walking that your radar picked up. This is way too the best individual feature of every human is their face. And that's a limited area that we can reliably check for. You trying to check for movement patterns, which there could be so many of. If someone's running, walking faster, walking slightly faster, skipping, jogging, walking slightly tired, hunched back, there are too many variables for this to work. Or maybe I am wrong and I'm just yapping. But that's from a peer, from not even your equal maybe, from someone below you. I don't see anything here that explains those possible, let's just say, difficulties with your proposed measurement system of differentiating individuals. And looking at the fact that no country, not even China, is applying this, it doesn't seem like this is a good idea.